Here is the watermelon.
Hey,
Gracias.
thank you very much.
She was sweet and funny, but she was hiding a secret. Before we begin, leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Strong women walk together. Subscribe and come with us. Enjoy the story. Chapter 1. The Innocent Encounter. He couldn't explain why he was there. Silent house. Clock creeping toward midnight. That hollow feeling tearing pieces out of him from the inside. The TV flickered on mute, casting a pale glow across his tired face. A half-empty glass sat on the table, like it was waiting for company that would never come. But there was no one. Just the hum of the fridge slicing through the silence like a blade. Some days, loneliness was a nuisance. Other days, it was punishment. Tonight, it was the latter. He picked up his phone without much interest. The cold light stabbed his eyes. He scrolled through old conversations, deleted messages, random profiles. Nothing held his attention until he saw a link. A random chat room, filled with strange names. Words appearing and disappearing like faint sighs. He was about to leave when a simple message popped up. "Hi, how are you?" The unexpected stirred something inside him. He took a deep breath and typed slowly. "I'm good. You?" The reply came before he could even set the phone down. "Better now." 3 words. So ordinary, yet carrying something he couldn't explain. At first, nothing unusual. Light vibe. Basic questions. Favorite food, movies, the music she listened to before falling asleep. She had this curious way of asking. Light. Almost playful. Like every word opened a door to something bigger. When she laughed, even if it was just an emoji, he felt something strange. A forgotten warmth. Like someone had opened a window inside him. Like he was alive again. "What's your name?" "Sister Long." He frowned. "Why that name?" She replied with a smiling emoji. "Long story." He chuckled to himself. Silly, but he liked it. She led the conversation with confidence, yet there was mystery. Something undecipherable. Hours slipped by. He checked the clock, startled by how late it was, but he didn't want to stop. He felt like he was exactly where he belonged, without ever leaving his couch. That night, he fell asleep with the phone in his hand. As his eyes closed, he realized it had been a long time since he smiled like that. The following days became a ritual. Morning messages, lunchtime chats, jokes in the afternoon, goodnight texts at midnight. Work felt lighter, traffic less exhausting. Everything took on a different color, even though nothing had really changed. It was her, or maybe the idea of her. Until, in the middle of a chat, she asked, "Can I see you?" A heavy silence followed. The 3 typing dots appeared, then vanished. He thought, great, I ruined it. Minutes stretched like hours. Then, finally, the reply. "You can. But I need you to understand something." His heart pounded. "What is it?" "I'm private. I don't like being exposed. You'll think I'm weird." He smiled to himself. Didn't even hesitate. "I don't care. I just want to see you." Saturday. The day that never seemed to come. He planned everything. Double shower. 3 outfit changes. A bottle of cologne he hadn't touched in months. 10 checks in the mirror. Before leaving, he grabbed a bag of fruit. Simple. Something healthy. A small gesture. The drive was torture. Every red light an enemy. Every turn a delay. When he finally parked, his heart was beating in his throat. She was at the door. And in that instant, everything stopped. Mask on her face. Long hair falling like a dark curtain. Long skirt. Long sleeve top down to her wrists. Discreet. Mysterious. Unlike any woman he'd ever met. He smiled, not knowing what to say. She spoke first. "You brought this." She pointed to the bag. "Fruit. Thought you'd like it." She chuckled softly. "I do. Thank you." They went inside. A simple home. A faint scent of incense. Soft music, barely there. No luxury, but warm. And strange. They talked on the couch. Laughed. Like they'd known each other for years. Time flew. When he left, it was late night. He drove in silence, his mind spinning. Thinking about her voice. The way she moved her hands. That mask, she never took it off, not even to drink water. Instead of alarming him, it drew him in deeper. Made him wonder what she was hiding. But he didn't want to scare her away. He got home late. Tossed his keys on the table. Collapsed on the couch, eyes closed. The last image before sleep was her. Behind that mask. Smiling at him through something he didn't yet understand. What he didn't know was this. Every detail about that woman hid a secret powerful enough to change everything. Forever. Chapter 2, Nights and Secrets. He never thought it would become routine. But it did. What started casually, the second visit, soon became a habit. First, only on Saturdays. Then, during the week. Sometimes even twice in the same day. Always the same ritual. He'd show up with fruit. Sometimes flowers. She'd open the door with a smile hidden behind her mask. Even without seeing her full face, he swore he could feel sweetness in her eyes. They'd talk for hours. Watch movies. Always with the lights low. Always in the dark. He found it odd, but didn't insist. Thought it was shyness. Given time, she'd open up. Weeks went by. Nothing changed. Mask on her face. Long sleeves, even in suffocating heat. A house drowned in shadows. Even when they slept together. Yes, it happened. Intense nights. Bodies colliding. He felt alive again. Desire. Passion. But also something strange. An emptiness in the middle of so much intensity. Because deep down, he didn't know this woman. Not really. He started to notice things. How she always turned off the lights before getting close. How she changed the subject when he asked about her past. How she seemed to run. From what? He didn't know. But he knew there was something. He tried to ignore it. Convince himself it didn't matter. When he was with her, the world felt bearable. He wanted to believe that was enough. But it wasn't. Not for long. One day, she went to the bathroom. He was alone in the room. He lay on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and saw it. A box in the corner. Small. Wooden. Poorly hidden, like it had been shoved there in a rush. He glanced at the door. Heard the sound of running water. She was in the shower. He had time. Enough time to open it. His heart pounded. He knew he shouldn't. But curiosity is poison that eats you slowly. And by then, he was already poisoned. He got up, crossed the room, picked up the box. It felt light. He opened it slowly. Odd things. Cosmetics. Wigs. Clothes different from the ones she wore with him. Nothing alarming, at first. But then, something froze his blood. A photo. That made no sense. It was her, but not her. Or at least, it didn't seem to be. The woman in the photo smiled without a mask. But her features were different. Sharper. Harder. Like two people in the same image. He froze. Photo in hand. Heart pounding like a drum. Breath short. He put everything back quickly. Closed the box. Returned it to the exact spot. Threw himself on the bed, trying to look normal. When she came out of the bathroom, she smiled. But his smile shook. She didn't notice. Or pretended not to. They talked. Watched TV. Slept together. But he didn't close his eyes. He lay there, staring at the ceiling. Listening to her breathing. Thinking. What are you hiding? Who are you, really? Next morning, she made coffee. Served fruit. Talked like nothing had happened. Then suddenly asked, "Are you okay? You seem off." He smiled. Forced. Just tired. She nodded. But her eyes seemed to know. Like she felt something had changed. And it had. Inside his head, something cracked. The trust. The fantasy he'd built around her. And along with it, something else grew. An almost sick need to uncover the truth. Who was Sister Long? Why the mask? Why the darkness? And that photo? Why did it look like someone else? Questions burning inside him. Questions that stole his sleep. But deep down, one was bigger than all the rest. One he didn't have the courage to say out loud. Do I really want to know? Because the answer could destroy everything. And maybe destroy him, too. The following days were silent torture. He faked normalcy. Faked calm. Faked that he hadn't seen anything. Inside, a storm grew. Every move she made seemed like a riddle. Every word, a clue. He caught himself analyzing everything. Trying to piece together a puzzle without knowing the final picture. Until one detail blew everything apart. During a conversation, she slipped. Said something about herself, simple, but wrong. Very wrong. He noticed. She noticed he noticed. In that moment, the air turned heavy. Like something hung between them, ready to explode. She tried to cover it up. Change the subject. But he knew. He couldn't ignore it anymore. Couldn't pretend anymore. That woman was not who she claimed to be. And he was ready to find out the truth. Even if it cost him everything. Chapter 3, The First Truth. He knew he couldn't wait any longer. That night was endless. Lying next to her, listening to her calm breathing, he couldn't close his eyes. Every second was torture. That box. The photo. The signs he'd ignored for weeks. All of it piled on his chest like a crushing weight. When morning came, He pretended everything was normal. They had breakfast together. She smiled like always. But there was something in that smile, something he'd never noticed before. Or maybe he noticed it now because he was looking for it. It was fragile. Too fragile for someone who claimed to be so strong. He left for work. Or at least pretended to. Drove a few blocks and pulled over. Hands gripping the wheel, breath shallow. He couldn't focus. One question hammered in his head. Who is she? He grabbed his phone. Almost sent a message. Almost asked outright. But no. He needed to see her eyes. Hear it from her lips. Face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. He started the engine and turned back. When he reached her door, his hands were shaking. He climbed the stairs slowly, like every step was a death sentence. Stopped in front of the door. Took a deep breath. Turned the key. She was there, just like always. Standing in the middle of the room, mask on. Long hair cascading over her shoulders. Skirt to the floor. High neck blouse. For a moment, he hesitated. He could just smile. Pretend everything was fine. Keep living inside the illusion. But he couldn't. Not after what he'd seen. He closed the door slowly. Sweat down his back, hands cold as ice. Took 2 steps inside. Stopped. And spoke. Who are you, really? She froze. Didn't answer. Silence filled the room, heavy as lead. He repeated it. Firmer this time. Tell me. Who are you? Her eyes changed. No more sweetness. No more softness. Just fear. Or something very close to it. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He waited. Seconds dragged like hours. Then she did something he never expected. Raised her hand slowly. Reached for the mask. And removed it. Slowly. Almost in slow motion. The air left his lungs in one sharp breath. For a moment, the world went silent. It wasn't her. Not the way he imagined. Not the way he wanted to believe. The mask hit the floor, followed by strands of a wig. Her real hair appeared. Short, neatly trimmed. The features now revealed were too harsh to be feminine. Smudged makeup. The shape of the jaw told the truth. It was a man. Delicate features, yes. But still a man. The ground disappeared beneath him. He staggered back 2 steps. Shaking. Wanted to scream. Wanted to run. Wanted to rip open the door and vanish. But he didn't. He stood there. Staring. His mind screamed. But his mouth said nothing. Until finally he managed. Voice raw, barely a whisper. Why? The other person took a deep breath. Met his gaze with eyes full of things he couldn't understand. And started talking. It wasn't an explanation. It was a confession. Words spilled out fast, tripping over each other. Stories of rejection, of pain, of survival. Told him about growing up hearing he was wrong. Never accepted for who he was. How he had to invent characters to exist. How this body was a prison. And beneath it all, there was only one desire. To be loved. He listened. Or pretended to. The words hit him like heavy rain against a window. You could see it. But you couldn't really feel it. His heart pounded so hard it drowned out everything else. Blood roared in his ears. The room spun. Before he knew it, he was sitting on the couch. Head in his hands. Everything he believed collapsed. The image he'd built shattered. Every smile. Every touch. Every night together. Now it all felt like a lie. But there was something worse. Far worse. Because, as insane as it sounded, he still wanted to stay. He still felt something. Something he couldn't name. They sat in silence. For minutes. Or hours. He didn't know. When he finally stood, his legs barely obeyed. He looked at the door. Thought about leaving. But didn't. Looked back at him. At her. And said, I don't know what to think. The answer came soft. Almost a whisper. I just wanted you to know who I am. He closed his eyes. Took a deep breath. And left. Without saying another word. That night, he didn't sleep. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't answer calls. Just lay there, staring at the ceiling, his mind at war. Deep down, he knew the truth. He was in love. With who? He wasn't sure anymore. He thought that would be enough. That he could accept it. That he could move forward. But he was wrong. So wrong. Because the worst was still to come. Chapter 4, The Other Side. He kept telling himself he'd moved past the shock. A mantra on repeat. I can handle this. I can accept it. Nothing has changed. But everything had changed. Everything. Still, he tried to believe love was enough. That feelings were stronger than any inconvenient truth. That this revelation, so brutal, so far from anything he'd ever known, wouldn't erase what he felt. But reality is cruel. It always finds a way to crush illusions. and it was waiting in silence to do exactly that. The days that followed, the relationship continued. Strange, tense, but it continued. He tried to act like nothing had happened, talked about silly things, forced himself to laugh at the same old jokes, pretended to sleep peacefully beside her, or him, as if the body next to him wasn't an open wound. But he couldn't fool himself. Something was growing inside. A discomfort, silent, relentless, like poison. And that poison carried questions he didn't have the courage to ask. Why? Why did you lie to me? Why didn't you tell me from the start? Who else knows? Who else has been here? Those questions burned inside him. Until one day, he didn't have to ask anymore. The answer came on its own, like a blade cutting through flesh. It was just an ordinary evening. He left work early, without telling her. Thought it would be a pleasant surprise. He liked the idea, felt almost happy about it, like someone trying to rescue something broken. He stopped at a flower shop, picked the prettiest bouquet, open roses with little daisies in between. He remembered her smile whenever she got flowers. That was real, wasn't it? He needed to believe it was. His heart raced, not with fear, but with anticipation. He wanted to walk in, see that look of surprise, feel that tight hug, and forget everything else. He climbed the stairs fast, turned the key slowly so it wouldn't make a sound, walked in smiling, called her name, the name he always used. His voice echoed down the hallway. Silence. No answer. Strange. Maybe she was sleeping, or in the shower. He moved forward, still holding the bouquet. The living room, empty. Kitchen too. Heart pounding. A chill running up his spine. Then he heard it. A muffled sound. Laughter. Coming from the bedroom. For a moment, he froze. Like his body turned to stone. His palms were sweating. Fingers clenched around the flower stems so tight they nearly snapped. He took a step, then another, each one heavy as lead. The sounds grew clearer. More laughter. And something else. Voices. Multiple. Whispering. Broken by moans. He stopped at the door. Felt the whole world tilt. Pushed it open, slowly. And saw. What he saw didn't fit inside his mind. It wasn't just one man. It was two. Maybe three. Bodies tangled together. Sheets twisted. Sweat-slicked skin. The smell of sex clinging to the air like smoke. He froze. The bouquet slipped from his hand. Flowers hit the floor. Petals scattered like shards of something that would never be whole again. She, or he, turned suddenly. Eyes wide. Face a mask of shock. Mouth opened. Words tumbled out. Frantic. I can explain. But he didn't hear a thing. It was like all sound had been sucked out of the world. Like he was underwater. He saw the lips move, but no words reached him. His legs went weak. Heart racing. Throat dry. He turned his back. Walked out without looking again. Every step felt like the last. Stumbled down the stairs. Opened the door like escaping a fire. Got into the car. Started it. And drove. He didn't know where. Didn't care. The wheel slipped in his trembling hands. Tears came, unstoppable. His chest felt like it was being ripped apart. That night, he cried harder than ever before. Cried until his body hurt. Cried out of rage. Out of humiliation. Out of shattered love. He wanted to hate her. Wanted to erase every touch, every kiss, every word from his memory. Wanted to scream to the world everything he'd just seen. But he didn't. He did none of that. Because deep down, he knew the truth. The cruelest truth of all. He still wanted to go back. He still wanted that person. Even after everything. And that was his greatest shame. In the silence, broken only by the sound of his own breathing, he realized something terrifying. This was only the beginning of the destruction. Chapter 5, The CEO's Fall. It all happened in minutes. One click, one upload, and hell broke loose. The images appeared first on dark forums. Short clips, fragments of nights that should have stayed secret. Bodies, skin, movement, faces blurred, but not hers. Not completely, just enough to make anyone curious. Then came the headlines, the comments, the questions. Who was this mysterious woman? Or was it a man? And then, someone connected the dots. Found old pictures. Compared the details. Marks on the body. Jewelry. The tone of the voice. The bomb exploded. Her name. Full. Exposed. No more Sister Long. Now, the name that carried weight in the financial world. The name that opened doors. The name that ruled one of the biggest companies in the country. The news spread like wildfire. Newspapers. Websites. Social media. You couldn't open anything without seeing her face. The headline screamed, "Sex Scandal Involving Millionaire CEO." Leaked videos expose secret life of high-profile executive. Who was the woman behind the mask? He saw it all from home. At first, he didn't believe it. Thought it was fake. Another cruel internet fabrication. But when he clicked on the first video, he knew. It was her. No doubt. It was the bedroom where he'd been countless times. The body he knew. The sheets. The details only someone intimate would notice. And then, the final blow. The third video. He was there. Him. Completely. Face partially hidden in the shadows, but recognizable. Anyone who knew him would know. The floor vanished beneath him. Heart racing. Throat closing up. He ran to the bathroom and threw up. Cold sweat dripping down his neck. At her company, chaos erupted. Emergency meetings. Phones ringing nonstop. Lawyers swarming the halls. But nothing helped. Every hour, another video. Another filthy detail of her private life dragged into the light. More fuel for the fire, burning her reputation in public square. The fall was brutal. No speeches. No justifications. Just a dry statement on the company's website. The executive is stepping down for personal reasons. Translation: she's finished. In a few days, she lost everything. Status. Power. The endless invitations to elite events. First-class trips. The doors that once opened automatically now slammed shut. As if that wasn't enough, the lawsuits began. Fraud. Corruption. Exploitation of image. All thrown in her face like mud in a storm. He fell too. His wife found out. The messages. The meetings. The voice notes he forgot to delete. That scene burned into his memory like a brand on skin. She stood in the middle of the living room, phone in hand. Eyes red. Breath trembling. This is what you do when you say you're working. He tried to speak. He couldn't. The words stuck in his throat like the air had disappeared. She hurled the phone to the floor. The videos opened on impact, playing in the silence of their home. Moans echoing through the walls. The sound of shame. The sound of ruin. You destroyed our family. She screamed that before ripping the wedding ring off her finger and hurling it at his face. The metal hitting his jaw hurt. But not as much as her eyes. Those eyes that said everything. That said, it's over. She grabbed her things and left. Without looking back. Without giving him a chance to explain. He stood there. Chest burning. Hands trembling. One question hammering in his skull. How did it all come to this? In the days that followed, life turned to dust. The house became empty. The silence heavy. Her scent vanished from the sheets. The pictures disappeared from the walls. He wandered the rooms like a ghost. Heard her voice in the corners. Felt her touch in the dark. But it was only memory. Only illusion. And still, even after everything, he couldn't forget her. The other one. The one responsible for all the destruction. Sister Long. Or whoever the hell she really was. Was it hate? Was it love? He didn't know. He only knew he couldn't get her out of his head. Or his body. It was a sick mix. A venom running through his veins. The more he tried to fight it, the tighter it gripped. Meanwhile, she was drowning in her own hell. The people who once worshipped her vanished. Friends turned into judges. Smiles became whispers. No one wanted to be near her. Alone, locked inside a rented apartment, she stared at the news on her screen and wanted to scream. But she didn't. She just cried. Cried until the tears ran dry. Sometimes, she grabbed her phone. Typed him a message. Deleted it before sending. Typed again. Deleted again. Until one day, she sent it. Meet me. The reply didn't come right away. It came hours later. One word. 2 letters. No. But she knew it wasn't a real no. He couldn't resist. And neither could she. They were tied by something neither of them understood. Something strong enough to drag them both to the bottom. And this was only the beginning. Chapter 6. The CEO's Collapse. One click. One upload. And hell began. The images surfaced like ghosts in the night. First in the dark corners of the internet. Then spreading like wildfire. Short clips. Intimate fragments. Bodies tangled together. Faces blurred, but not all of them. Hers remained clear. Cruel fate. Whoever filmed it knew exactly what they were doing. And then, the hunt began. Who was this mysterious woman? Internet sleuths are merciless. They pieced it together. Compared every detail. A scar here. A piece of jewelry there. The tone of a whisper. Until someone cracked it. Her full name. Her position. The company she ran. Sister Long ceased to exist. In her place, The real name of one of the country's most powerful CEOs emerged. The bomb detonated in screaming headlines. Scandal: billionaire CEO's double life exposed in leaked videos. The woman behind the mask: high-profile executive caught in sex leak. He saw it all from home. At first, he thought it was fake. Just another cruel trick of the internet. But when he opened the first video, he recognized everything. The bedroom where he'd slept countless nights. The body he knew by heart. The sheets still carrying her scent in his memory. And then came the third video. He was there, partially hidden in the shadows. But anyone who knew him would know. His world collapsed in seconds. He bolted to the bathroom, vomited until his soul felt empty. Cold sweat soaked his back, hands trembling like leaves in a storm. At her company, chaos erupted. Lawyers stormed the hallways. Emergency meetings back to back. Phones ringing nonstop. But it was already too late. Every hour brought a new video. Another filthy piece of her private life fed to the masses. The bonfire grew, and she burned alive in a public square. The fall was brutal. No warnings. No chance to defend herself. Just a cold, sterile statement on the company's site. The executive is stepping down for personal reasons. Translation: she's finished. In a matter of days, she lost everything. The empire built over decades. The respect earned through years of blood and sweat. The doors that once swung open now slammed shut in her face. And as if that wasn't enough, the lawsuits came. Fraud, corruption, blackmail. Every accusation, another stone hurled at her. Every lawyer, another vulture circling overhead. He fell too. His wife found out in the worst possible way. She came home and caught him in the living room. Phone in hand, eyes swollen from crying, breath trembling like broken glass. This is what you do when you say you're working. Her voice sliced through the air like a blade. He tried to explain. The words died in his throat. There was no explanation for this. No excuse strong enough to smother the fire. She hurled the phone to the floor. The screen shattered. But the videos kept playing. Moans echoing through the house. The sound of shame. The sound of ruin. You destroyed our family. She screamed it while ripping the wedding ring off her finger. Threw it at his face. The metal hit his jaw. It hurt less than her eyes. Those eyes that said everything. That said, it's over. She grabbed her bags. Walked out without a word. No forgiveness. No second chances. No way back. He stood there. Alone. In the wreckage. Chest burning. Hands shaking. One question pounding in his skull. How did we get here? The house became a ghost. Silence cut like shards of glass. Her scent vanished from the pillows. Photos disappeared from the walls. All that remained were marks on the floor. Scars of a life that no longer existed. He wandered through the rooms like a lost soul. Heard voices in the corners. Felt phantom touches. But it was only his mind playing tricks. Only loneliness screaming. And still, even after losing everything, he couldn't forget her. The one who ruined it all. Sister Long. Or whoever the hell she really was. Was it hate? Was it love? He couldn't tell anymore. All he knew was that she clung to his soul like a bad tattoo. The harder he tried to erase it, the deeper it sank. Meanwhile, she was drowning in her own hell. Friends vanished like smoke. The flatterers turned their backs. Smiles became vicious whispers. No one wanted to be near her. Success has 1,000 fathers. Failure is an orphan. Alone in a rented apartment, she watched the headlines and wanted to scream. But she only screamed inside. Outside, only silent tears. Until even the tears ran dry. Sometimes, she picked up her phone. Typed a message to him. Deleted it before sending. Typed again. Deleted again. Until one day, she sent it. Meet me. The reply came hours later. 2 letters, sharp as a blade. No. But she knew. She knew him. Knew his no tasted like maybe. And maybe smelled like yes. They were tied by something neither of them understood. An invisible thread. Strong enough to drag them both to the edge of the abyss. Together. Chapter 7. Prison and Forgiveness. The news arrived with breakfast. Before the first light. Before the day could even offer hope. He was scrolling through his phone without interest when the screen exploded with alerts. Notifications from everywhere. A digital storm. He opened the first one. And his blood turned to ice. CEO and sex scandal arrested for fraud and exploitation. There was a photo. Her. In handcuffs. Head bowed like any common criminal. Bare face. No makeup. Gone was the elegance he once knew. Gone was the woman wrapped in mystery. Now she was just flesh exposed to the cruelty of the world. Eyes empty, shoulders collapsed, dignity shattered. He ran to the TV, turned to the first news channel, and there she was again. The same scene replayed in slow motion. A public execution. Rain fell softly, but it didn't wash away the fire in the journalist's eyes. Microphones lunged like spears. Questions screamed. Is it true you sold the videos? How do you respond to these charges? Who else was involved? She didn't answer. She had no strength left. Her lowered head was her only armor, a fragile shield against the world's cruelty. He stood frozen in front of the screen. Couldn't breathe right. His chest tightened like a fist. His hands shook uncontrollably. For a moment, he wished it was a nightmare, that he'd wake up drenched in sweat, but relieved. But it was real, painfully real. He spent the day trying to distract himself. Failed miserably. The images returned like ghosts, her voice echoing in his memory, her scent lingering on sheets he couldn't bring himself to change. That night, he tried to sleep, tossed, and turned like a fish out of water. Every shadow screamed her name. Every silence was a cruel reminder. At dawn, he gave up, paced through the empty house, opened the fridge without hunger, picked up his phone without desire, and saw them. More headlines, more photos of her in cuffs, and something inside him broke. It wasn't anger. It wasn't relief. It was raw pain. Pain tearing chunks out of his chest. Like every bone was splintering slowly. He tried to fight it, repeated like a mantra. She destroyed my life. But the words were hollow. Lies he told himself. Because even seeing her like that, in the rain, humiliated, wrecked, the image that stayed was another one. Her eyes. Eyes that once smiled only for him. Alone. Unprotected. Lost. By morning, his decision was made. Against reason. Against the world. Against himself. He threw on the first clothes he found. Grabbed the keys with trembling hands. Walked out without looking back. The drive to the prison was long. Every mile a war inside him. Reason screamed. Turn back. Don't do this. She doesn't deserve it. But his heart had already won. Like always. When he reached the gray gates, his palms were drenched. The car felt too small to hold the storm raging inside. He sat there, breathing deep, chest heaving, eyes burning. He could turn back, forget, choose sanity. But he didn't. He opened the door, stepped onto the cold ground, walked into hell willingly. The corridor stretched like infinity, gray as a dead soul, the stench of metal, mildew, and despair. Each step echoed like a sentence. He passed the detectors, the iron doors, until the last one. And then, she appeared. The world went silent. Unrecognizable. Hair matted. Skin pale as paper. Eyes hollow, as if life had been ripped out of them. When she saw him, she froze, blinking slowly, like doubting her own vision. And then she cried, tears falling without permission, without control. He stood motionless, body shaking all over. And before he could stop himself, he raised his hand to the glass. She did the same, palms almost touching, separated only by cold, merciless inches. Why? His voice broke. Not an accusation, a desperate plea for meaning. She shook her head. Her lips trembled violently. The words came out shattered. I didn't want. I never. Each phrase crumbled midair. But then, between sobs, she whispered the unthinkable. Forgive me. For everything. I'll change. I swear I'll change. He closed his eyes. The tears burned hot. He knew he shouldn't believe it. New reason was screaming for him to walk away. But he stayed. He left that place with his mind made up. Against everyone. Against logic. Against the whole damn world. He paid her bail with what little he had left. Signed papers without reading them. Gave up the last scraps of his life to set her free. When the doors opened and she walked out, time stopped. She ran into his arms. They clung to each other with a force that mixed love, despair, and madness. Like two castaways clutching the same piece of wreckage. In the car, she laid her head on his shoulder. Whispered softly, "It'll be different now." He wanted to believe her. Needed to believe her. Like a drowning man gripping his last breath. But deep down, a voice whispered, "The worst is still to come." Chapter 8. A New Beginning. She walked out of prison with uncertain steps. As if the world was too big for feet that tired. He was waiting, leaning against the car. Hands in his pockets. Heart pounding like a war drum. When their eyes met, silence spoke everything. She ran to him. They embraced like people trying to gather shattered glass. Carefully. Painfully. Hopefully, her scent was still there, mixed with dust and cold metal. But it was there, and that made his chest burn. Because in that moment, he believed it had been worth it, that all the hell had meaning. The drive back was mute. Radio off. 2 prisoners inside a car, chained to something stronger than bars. She stared out the window, hands gripping the worn fabric of her pants. He drove, trying not to think, because thinking meant remembering, and remembering still bled. At her apartment, he paused before stepping inside. The familiar smell hit him, and tears followed. He didn't know if they came from relief or fear. He dropped the keys on the table, headed for the kitchen, searching for something to do with his hands. She stood in the middle of the room, still, looking at the bare walls, the closed curtains, asking herself if this could ever feel like home. Want some water? Yes. He brought her a glass. Their hands brushed for an eternal second, and in that touch were silent promises. Promises they might never keep. The first days were soft, softer than he dared to dream. They shopped hand in hand, walked the streets like any normal couple. She laughed at silly things, as if proving to herself she could still be happy. He believed it, wanted so badly to believe. At night, they cooked together, invented impossible recipes, covered each other in flour, and laughed until it hurt. They slept tangled in each other's arms. And in those moments, the world was quiet. No headlines, no judgment, no past. It was like living inside a bubble. And for a while, he believed they could stay there forever, that the storm had passed, that the worst was behind them. But peace lies, especially when it comes too fast. The signs started small, invisible, a glance lost in the middle of a conversation, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Phone always face down. He noticed, but didn't want to see. He ignored the first sudden outing. I need to take care of something real quick. He smiled and said, okay. But his heart skipped like it knew truths his mind refused. The second time, the excuse came polished. I'm meeting a friend. Important matter. He tried to believe, forced a smile. But when the door closed, he stood staring at it for minutes, waiting for footsteps to return. They didn't. She came home late that night, carrying a different scent, a strange perfume, or maybe the same one, mixed with secrets. Everything okay? She kissed him quickly and rushed to the shower. While the water ran, the phone buzzed. He picked it up. Locked screen. Notifications cleared. His stomach dropped. The floor gave way. But he put the phone back before she stepped out. He didn't ask. Not that night. Because asking meant hearing. And hearing meant breaking. The days turned into a dirty game. He pretended to believe. She pretended not to notice suspicion growing like weeds. But the silence screamed. The bed felt bigger every night. The space between them, colder. He started catching details. Fresh nail polish when she claimed to stay home. A sparkle in her eyes that wasn't for him. Rushed exits. Late returns. Each one was a dagger twist. And deep down, he knew. Knew the promise was hollow. Knew the bubble of peace was smoke. Knew hell wasn't over. But he did nothing. Not yet. Because loving too much is like holding a blade by the edge. You bleed, but don't let go. Not until the cut is too deep to ignore. One ordinary night. He woke to a strange sound. Got up slowly. Bathroom light glowed. He moved toward the door. Heard her voice. Low. Urgent. On the phone. He couldn't make out the words. But he understood the tone. The tone he knew too well. The one she used with him in the beginning. When everything felt new. When everything felt true. He slipped back to bed before she noticed. Closed his eyes and faked sleep. But his eyes stayed open until dawn. In the morning, she woke smiling. Kissed his forehead. Spoke of future plans. Trips. Fresh starts. And he pretended to believe. One more time. But inside, something cracked for good. And he knew. He was about to uncover another bitter truth. Because the worst lie isn't the one that destroys you. It's the one that makes you believe that this time, it would be different. Chapter 9, The Last Lie. He always knew. Deep down in his soul. The signs were screaming. In the long silences. In the eyes that kept looking away. In the smiles that died halfway. But knowing is not the same as accepting. And he chose the lie. Chose to believe the empty promises. Chose to cling to the illusion like a drowning man clutching a rotten branch. Until that day, it was an ordinary morning. The sun slipped lazily through the curtains, painting the bed with golden stripes. He woke up first, turned his head. She slept peacefully, as if nothing existed outside that moment. He stayed there, watching her, remembering the first time he saw her smile. The butterflies when they touched for the first time. The madness of getting involved knowing it could destroy him. And it did. But in that instant, looking at her, he almost believed it was worth it. Almost. She opened her eyes slowly, like waking from a beautiful dream. Smiled. That smile. The one that always tore down his defenses. She leaned over, kissed his forehead. "Good morning, love." He murmured a reply. Tried to smile back. But something inside him was tired. Tired of fighting his own intuition. Tired of trying to hold water in his hands. After breakfast, she went for a shower. The door closed. Water began to fall. And the silence that remained weighed a ton. He looked at the table. A coffee cup with dark remnants. Her bag tossed on the couch. And there, on the table, her phone. His heart raced. Hands turned clammy. Throat went dry. He knew it was wrong. Knew that nothing would ever be the same after this. But he had to know. Had to. He approached slowly, as if the device was a bomb ready to explode. Picked it up with trembling fingers. The screen lit up. Asked for a password. He knew it. She told him months ago, laughing, back when everything seemed transparent. He typed it in, shaking. The screen unlocked, and his world collapsed. The messages were there. An endless list of conversations. Unknown names. Explicit photos. Words that once belonged only to him. Now scattered like rotten seeds. He scrolled with burning eyes. Every sentence a stab. Every image a blade sliding in slow. "Last night was amazing. When can we do it again? I can't wait to feel you again." His stomach twisted. He wanted to vomit, but kept reading, like pouring salt on an open wound. Couldn't stop. The more he saw, the more it hurt. The more it hurt, the more he needed to see. Until the worst part. A video. Short. Recent. Yesterday. He hit play. The sound filled the room. Moans he knew by heart. Intimate laughter. Words once whispered to him. Now spoken to someone else. The phone slipped from his hand. Hit the floor with a dull thud. He didn't notice. He was empty. Eyes blank. Breath shallow. He felt something break inside. Not a piece. Everything. Like someone had ripped his insides out with bare hands. The water stopped. The bathroom door opened. She appeared in a towel. Hair dripping onto her shoulders. "Love." He didn't answer. Didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't make a scene. He just stood. Walked to the closet. Grabbed a suitcase. Threw clothes inside with mechanical movements. Like a robot programmed to leave. She froze. "What are you doing?" Silence. He grabbed his keys. Heart pounding, but his face was ice. So cold she didn't dare insist. He walked to the door. Paused for a second. Looked back. Said the only words he could manage. "Never again." Opened the door. Stepped out. The hallway felt like an endless tunnel. His legs weighed like lead. But he kept walking. With every step, he left behind not just her, but the version of himself that believed in that love. Outside, the city was still alive. Cars rushing by. People laughing. The sun shining bright. As if nothing had happened. As if his world hadn't just exploded. He got in the car. Started the engine. Drove without a destination. All he knew was that he had to get away. Far away from the lie that almost killed him. As the asphalt blurred beneath him, tears began to fall. He didn't try to hold them back. There was no strength left to fight. No hope left to cling to. Only pain. And an emptiness so vast it seemed endless. In the middle of his silent despair, one truth echoed like a scream. Nothing would ever be the same again. But he still didn't know. The worst was waiting around the next curve. Chapter 10. The Reunion. Months passed like years. Years spent trying to erase every trace of her from his memory. Every sound. Every scent. Every ghostly touch. At first, he believed he could. Threw away the photos. Deleted the messages. Blocked her number. Changed routes and habits. But the mind is cruel when it wants to hurt. And it hurt without needing proof. One stray memory was enough. They came at the worst times. A song on the radio. Perfume in an elevator. A laugh that sounded like hers at the next table. Everything brought her back. Like a ghost refusing to leave. And every memory tied a knot in his chest. A mix of anger, longing, and something worse, desire. Desire that throbbed like an infected wound. He tried to move on. Went out with other women. Talked. Smiled. Tried to fall in love. But he couldn't. He always compared. And no one was her. No one had that mystery. That dangerous intensity. Until that Saturday. He didn't plan anything. Just wanted to leave the house. Escape the gray walls. The cutting silence. The echo of his own thoughts. Went to the mall to buy a shirt. have some coffee, anything to fill the empty mind. He walked slowly past the stores, looking at displays without seeing. The noise around him sounded distant. Laughter and voices blurred like background static. Until he stopped. Stopped without knowing why. Something across the hallway. He turned his head and saw her. She was there, standing in front of some random store window. Eyes lost in infinity. Hair different. Thinner. Paler. Like life had drained her essence. His heart raced. Hands trembled. The world shrank until it was just the two of them. He wanted to run. Turn his back. Pretend he didn't see. But he couldn't. Because when her eyes found his, everything stopped. No noise. No people. No time. Just that look. Heavy with stories neither of them wanted to tell. She took a deep breath. Her lips moved, trying to form words. Then gave up. She took one step. Then another. And before he realized, she was standing in front of him. He didn't move. Just stood there, trying to read every line of her face. It was her. But not the same. There were shadows in her eyes. New lines etched by pain and time. For a moment, they just stood there, breathing the same air, thick with memories. Then she smiled. A sad smile. Full of untold stories. Full of regret. Full of desire that refused to die. Something cracked inside him. And before he could think, he smiled back. A small smile. Hesitant. But real. Like time hadn't passed. Like mistakes didn't exist. They hugged. Not a light hug. A desperate one. Arms locked tight, as if afraid to lose again. She cried first. Hot tears soaking his shirt. Then he cried too. Because in that embrace, he wasn't just holding her. He was holding everything they'd lived. Everything they'd lost. Everything that still bled like an open wound. They stayed like that for what felt like forever. Or maybe seconds. He didn't know. Only knew he didn't want to let go. Ever. But deep down he knew. That hug erased nothing. Changed nothing. Healed nothing. That love was a wound that would never close. And always would be. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Because despite everything, it was the only thing that made them feel alive. They left together. No clear destination. No plan. Walked through the parking lot like fugitives from their own story. The night wind hit their faces. Cold. Sharp. Almost a warning. But neither of them listened. They walked side by side, not touching hands, but with fingers trembling for contact. The silence between them was thick, heavy with words burning to escape, but trapped in their throats. They reached his car. He opened the door. She hesitated, looked back, like someone afraid of betraying something or someone. There was nothing, just shadows, just the past laughing at them. She got in. The leather seat felt warm, even with the chill outside. He rounded the car, sat behind the wheel, started the engine, without knowing where to go. Neither of them asked. Neither wanted to know. They drove through empty streets lit by flickering lampposts like broken signals. Until he pulled over somewhere far, where the city was just a distant hum, and the only sound left was the pounding inside their chests. She turned her head slowly. Her eyes shone brighter than the lights outside. And finally, she spoke. Why do we always come back? He drew in a breath. The question cut deeper than any knife. Because the answer was too simple. Too cruel. Because we never really left. She closed her eyes. A tear slid down. He didn't try to wipe it away. Didn't try to promise anything. Just looked at her like a man staring at a drug that kills, but gives life meaning. They leaned in slowly, as if time itself feared repeating the past. But when their lips met, everything exploded. Every never again. Every it's over. Turned to dust. The kiss was raw. The kiss of two people who know it's wrong. And don't care. Because sometimes love isn't about being right. It's about being inevitable. In that car, on that night, there were no wounds. No future. Just the present burning them alive. And deep down, they both knew. Nothing ended there. Nothing began either. Because some stories don't have an ending. They just start over. Each time more dangerous.